Through the years, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser has talked a lot about protecting your tax dollars.
I just want the money spent properly in the best interest of taxpayers.
He claims to spend his own money on meals for him and his staff rather than getting reimbursed for expenses.
So I buy all these guys lunch every day. I just don't.
Okay. But public records we received from his office show Nungesser does turn in quite a few expenses for reimbursement. He charged taxpayers over $19,000 for expenses on 22 trips last year, including $4,400 just to cover his meals. By contrast, the lieutenant governor before Nungesser, Jay Darden, charged taxpayers a total of $226 for travel during his last year in office for a single trip to Shreveport. That's because Darden was running for governor in 2015, and while campaigning, he drove his own car rather than being chauffeured by state police troopers. But Nungesser is campaigning for re-election right now, and we found he still gets driven by state troopers. But he also gets $8,400 added to his paychecks to cover the use of his personal vehicle.
When I don't need to get somewhere because of traffic or whatever to speak for public business, I drive myself.
State officials get a choice. They can be assigned a state-owned vehicle, or they can take a flat annual payment, a stipend, to cover the costs of using their own personal vehicle. They cannot do both. But Nungesser does. Several sources who have worked for Nungesser tell us the troopers actually drive him everywhere, and they've never seen him drive his own car. When Nungesser came to Channel 4 to appear on our morning show on March 11th, he was driven by this trooper, Joey Sims, in this state police Chevy Tahoe. How often do you get the trooper driving you in the state vehicle?
A few times a week, back and forth when I'm traveling between destinations.
In a statement Tuesday, Nungesser said, quote, "It has been strongly suggested to me by state police leadership that I should have a full-time security detail. Regardless of the recommendation, I don't accept a full-time detail. I only agree to one part-time state trooper who I use for security only intermittently." Our cameras followed Nungesser on several days in March and April. Every time he was being driven by state troopers in state police vehicles.
Yeah, you can look at the schedule and see whenever there's not trooper travel on there, I'm driving myself.
So we sent Nungesser's office a public records request for his schedule. They sent us this redacted calendar. This calendar has no reference to trooper travel, but this one does. We were able to get a copy of Nungesser's calendar from October before it was redacted. It shows the letters TT every time he left the office. TT stands for trooper travel. But you get the full stipend, which is reserved for people using their vehicles all year.
Well, if you look at the amount of miles I put on my vehicle and the travel I do, but you'd have to determine. I don't know the particulars of the law. I just do what they tell me I can do.
Remember, Nungesser gets $8,400 of your tax dollars to use his own vehicle. But when we asked Nungesser's Undersecretary, Nancy Watkins, for records of that stipend, she gave us this printout showing him getting half that, about $4,200 each year. The Division of Administration handles state payroll and said that's wrong. Nungesser gets $700 every month for a total of $8,400 a year. After Nungesser's visit to Channel 4 on the morning of March 11th, we followed him to Metairie, where he met with his re-election campaign strategist, Greg Buson. The redacted calendar Nungesser's office gave us says nothing about the meeting and nothing about the trooper being with him. But here he is. We were there for 4 hours and saw the trooper waiting in the car most of the time. Buson confirmed the meeting lasted several hours. He said the 3 state staff there with Nungesser were only minimally involved in the meeting. Here is Buson leaving around 3 p.m. About an hour later, here comes Nungesser with state employees. One of them, Communications Director Julio Guichard, claimed 4 hours of overtime that day without giving a reason. He didn't respond to requests for comment. On March 25th, we watched from the road as a state trooper picked up Nungesser first thing in the morning at his mansion in Port Sulphur and drove him an hour to the New Orleans airport so he could fly to Washington for a lieutenant governor's convention. Again, the travel and the troopers are not on his redacted calendar. But the unredacted calendar from October shows trooper travel when Nungesser was holding an all-day golf tournament fundraiser on October 15th. His redacted calendar that day is blank. Here is the state police SUV at that golf tournament. And here's Nungesser in the same state police SUV pulling up to his biggest fundraiser yet, earlier this month at the Celtic Center in Baton Rouge. So are you using a state trooper to bring you to a campaign event?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Brings me everywhere for security reasons.
Okay, I thought you said that you only used him part-time.
I do. I use it part-time.
Okay. Is it everywhere or part-time?
It's when I'm being transported places, but I use my vehicle too. I've told you that twice.
Here's Trooper Sims walking in with Guichard, and here are pictures of them inside the event, along with several other members of the Lieutenant Governor's state staff. Okay, what about when you meet with Mr. Buson in Metairie for several hours and have him wait? Is that an appropriate use of state police time?
Well, when he drives me to New Orleans from Baton Rouge, I have many events. It's not just a event. So you can get my calendar and look at what you want. I got an event tonight. Have a good night. So.
All right. Communications Director Julio Guichard did not respond to our questions about him claiming overtime when Nungesser met with Buson in March. But in a written statement, Nungesser said, quote, "To my knowledge, the state has not incurred any costs from any of my staffers for the time they spend outside of state-related work." Ton, Karen?
All right, David, quite a contrast from his predecessor for sure. If you have a story you want the Eyewitness investigators to look into, email your tip to eyewitness@WWL-TV.com.